Welcome to InterPartyConflict, the podcast where we answer your questions so you can have the best tabletop gaming experience possible. My name is Gabe.
And my name is Jeff.
And we're going to answer your questions today. But first, I have a question, Jeff.
Yeah.
How are you doing today?
Doing pretty good. It's actually starting to feel weird when we do episodes where it's just you and me, because we've been doing a lot of guest stuff lately.
I know. At the moment, I actually don't have any more guests on the schedule.
That's fine. I mean, like, I'm not complaining. It was just like, man, what? Like, this is kind of weird.
I know.
It's weird. Just Gabe and Jeff.
Yep.
Just Gabe and Jeffing around town. That's how it goes?
We'll make that a thing.
Okay.
How's that sound? Yeah. So you're doing all right?
They're flying on rooftops. Sorry.
Is that a Tank Man reference?
That's a Tank Man reference.
Okay,
yeah. Okay. Doing pretty good. How about yourself?
Doing pretty good. I'm still sick. It's been like 3 weeks. I still have this annoying, persistent cough every now and then.
Yeah.
I decided a few days ago that if I wasn't getting noticeably better soon, that I would go to a doctor. But I have been getting better. Just like I still every now and then the cough will overtake me and I can't do anything but cough for a minute or so.
Yeah, I hear you. Yeah, I don't get so sick that I have to like take days off, which I kind of hate that, because it's like every once in a while you just want to take a sick day, you know, or, to kind of like kind of recuperate or something. But like I never quite get that sick.
Yeah,
and like to where like I'm afraid I'm contagious or anything like that. It's just like I could just feel a little like fatigued, or like your throat's a little scratchy, or you feel a little like warm to the touch or something, but not quite sick,
Right.
So yeah, like I hate those like really prolonged like sort of general malaise kind of things.
Yeah. Well, speaking of taking days off, we're not necessarily an announcement, because I don't think it's going to affect the podcast at all, but in a few weeks I'm actually going on vacation.
Cool. Where are you going?
We are visiting. So do you remember there was a little bonus episode we did in November of last year where we had some friends that were visiting from out of town.
Oh, right.
I like sort of interviewed them about their gaming experiences. We're going to visit them.
Cool.
So
awesome.
So that's going to be a lot of fun. We might also, because they live down south, we might actually swing by where we lived in Tennessee when we're on our way. Oh. So going on a road trip, and that should be fun. So yeah, it'll be nice to relax.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'm going to go see my family this weekend. So it's my niece's birthday. So
I almost forgot. I just want to say thank you very much to Paulo Quiros from the film Reroll, who was on our show last week. I thought that was a great episode. He did the majority of the talking. He was just telling us all about his process for making games for the film Reroll, and so on and so on. But I thought that was a really fun episode. I very much enjoyed participating in it.
Yeah.
I enjoyed editing it. I enjoyed listening to it. So thank you so much to Paulo out there.
Yeah, thank you very much.
If I didn't make it clear before, I think everybody should go and check out the film Reroll. It's a great, great podcast. At the moment, they're going through Jurassic Park.
Oh, cool.
Which is a lot of fun. I guess they started recording it like a long time ago, but due to scheduling issues, haven't been able to finish it. So they're still working through it, but it's really good.
Cool.
It's really good. So one thing I do want to talk to you about, I actually refrained from mentioning this to you before we recorded, but I've been reading the source book for the Wet Hot American Summer role-playing game.
Oh.
Because we did our Roll20 game last week, and I think it was a lot of fun. We finished the adventure that we started like 7 months ago or something. But anyway, so we finished that, and I was trying to think of like what I want to do next. And for a little while, I was thinking, oh, well, it would be cool to learn how to play this Wet Hot American Summer game, and then try to run a game of that over Roll20. But so I started reading the book. I think I mentioned the existence of this role-playing game a long time ago, back when we had the Hardy Dice Friends on.
Possibly.
I remember there being some outtakes I cut out about us talking about that movie/show. And the role-playing game, I love the character creation. I love the setting. There's like rules on what sort of stuff you have to figure out about the camp, that the summer camp that the game is going to take place in. So like, there's a little step of like, you got to world build, then you got to have everybody create characters and so on. I love all of that, but the actual like moment to moment of the game it is very, very poorly explained, and what is explained sounds very not fun.
Okay.
So I don't know if I want to ever run that game as it's written. Like if I ever do anything with it, I'm probably going to use the character creation, use the camp creation, and then just kind of make up my own mechanics for how it's going to work. Because there's like, you choose traits for your characters, and then whenever you're supposed to make like a roll for something, you roll a d20 and then you add or subtract something depending on what traits you chose. But then like the game really doesn't explain what rolls are supposed to be for or how often you can make rolls. And there are certain things where they're like, oh yeah, if you succeed on this roll, you get a bonus to this, but there's nothing saying when you can. So like you could, in theory, you could just be like, oh, I'm just going to make this check 100 times or something. I don't know. Maybe some part of the process was missed when I was reading it, but I don't understand how the game is supposed to play.
Right.
I don't understand. And then there's a part where it's talking about like, I don't know if this is in addition to rolls or in replacement of rolls, but there's a point where like you're supposed to have the players act out things that their characters are doing. Like you can like give them like yarn and they can be like macrameing something while they're doing stuff. But I don't, is that a definite part of the game or is that just a suggestion? I can't tell because that doesn't sound like it would be fun most of the time.
Okay.
I don't know. I think that they had something great in the beginning and in the end, but the middle part, I just don't get it. And maybe I just got to watch a video of some people playing it. If such videos exist, right, to see if maybe I'm just totally missing what is supposed to be happening. But like,
well, right. Yeah. And even if you find something like that and it makes sense in the video, but it still doesn't make sense to you in the book, like that's something to be like, hey guys, like maybe put that in the rule book.
Yeah.
Cause like, yeah, I have seen rules for games that like, I feel like that is one of the more common mistakes I see is like when it's like, when do you do this?
Yeah.
Like they'll be like, yo, you can roll for this. And it's like, okay, but when does that happen?
Right.
Does that happen before this, after that, you know?
Because there's a point near the beginning of this book where they talk about like turn order. And I'm like, wait, when do you take turns and for what purpose?
Yeah.
Like that is not explained at all, unless maybe there were two pages stuck together that I missed or something.
I mean, it was a wet, hot American summer.
Right. So I don't know. The book, if it were a role-playing game that was incredibly simple, because there's plenty of those out there, then the book doesn't need, the book is like, I don't know, 100 pages or something like that. It doesn't need to be that long if it is at its core an incredibly simple game. But then there are a lot of rules, so I don't know how. It's like they wanted it to be a structured game, but then didn't include all of the structure. They included all of the bloat that comes with the structure.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It was just very confusing for me to read.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's because of something wrong with the game or something wrong with my, I don't know, the way that I look at role-playing games. I don't know.
Sure.
But it doesn't help that I was already very soured on this game from the beginning. I backed it on Kickstarter.
Right, yeah.
And then I'm pretty sure I told you about this. I don't know if I mentioned it on the show, but I backed it on Kickstarter and then I waited and waited and waited, never heard from them a single time until one day my wife shows up with a copy of the game that she bought on Amazon for less money than I backed on the Kickstarter. And then I'm like, well, wait a minute. I was supposed to get a copy before it went out to stores.
Right.
And I was supposed to get a PDF.
Yeah.
And why is it less expensive on Amazon when my copy hasn't even arrived? None of this made sense to me. And so like, I got in touch with the creators and I complained and they were like, oh, well, I guess that happens. Hey, tell you what, we'll send you an autographed copy instead. And so they sent me a non-autographed copy.
Oh no.
So then I complained. So they sent me another copy that was autographed. So I have 3 copies of the game now.
Sure.
The 2 that I got, the one that I got with the autographs, the one without the autographs, and then one that my wife bought at the store for less money than I spent on the Kickstarter. It's just frustrating. It's like, why did I not get this? What went wrong? You know what I mean?
Yeah. I don't know.
Anyway. So I guess you want to get into this episode.
Sure.
Enough of me complaining.
Yeah.
I guess.
All right. So, Gabe, what's the, Gabe, what's, but we have,
Jeff,
What?
be quiet. Because you are in the Dragon's Horde. So today's item is submitted by Steve A. via email, and that it is called the Puku Mask. Mm-hmm. This item is a leather mask that is worn thin and cracked with age. Rusted rivets attach iron plates along the lower half, completely covering the mouth, save for a collection of small holes. So this mask, unlike a lot of magic items, is not one that you would necessarily... It's not one that you would wear... that you would voluntarily wear.
Sure.
This one is a mask that you put on someone else, and then it has effects that it uses on them. So this magic item only affects spellcasters. Mm-hmm. If someone else were to wear it, it would not affect them. And the mask itself has an AC of 19 and 20 hit points. So in theory, you or someone else could attack the mask to destroy it while you're wearing it. Now, this mask, while worn, causes the wearer to be unable to cast spells requiring verbal components.
Cool.
So you can still speak, you can still breathe, you can do all that, but any spell that you try to cast, well, actually it does specify it can prevent spells up to 4th level. So any spell of 4th level or lower that you try to cast, when you attempt to do so, triggers the mask to activate, dealing 2d8 psychic damage to the wearer.
Yeesh.
So yeah, it stops you from casting spells, and when you try to do so, you take damage.
Cool.
So this would be something that you would put on a spellcaster you were putting in prison,
Right.
for example. You know.
Yeah, so somebody you're trying to interrogate, but don't want them to have the opportunity to cast a spell or something. You throw that on them.
Yeah. Yeah, because, you always got to wonder, like, if, let's say you get a spellcaster and you put them into custody or something like that. If they're a wizard, you can take away their spell book, but I mean, they still have prepared the spells that they prepared the day before.
Yeah.
So...
Would they technically... Do they... Like, if they... I forget if this is the case, but does a wizard who prepares spells one day, loses their spell book, the next day, do they still have those same spells prepared, or do they have to re-prepare the same ones over and over?
You mean... So if they don't cast them, they still have them. But...
Yeah.
Yeah, so in 5th edition, because I'm thinking of in 3rd edition when you would prepare like 2 castings of Magic Missile and 1 casting of Mage Armor and so on. In 5th edition, yeah, I guess you would still have the same spells prepared because you're not using up the prepared spells. You're using up your spell slots. Exactly. Yeah. So, yeah, I guess in that case, I could be wrong about this, but I'm pretty sure you would still have all the spells that were in your memory.
They might say something in the player's handbook specifically, like they have to redo it or something like that. But I think there's like little extra little table, or there's like an extra little blurb in there specifically about spell books. So there might be something in that.
But then there's a question of like what do warlocks do? What do sorcerers do?
So I mean, sorcerers. It's like it's basically innate spell casting technically, and like they also have their meta magic things that they do, so they can
that's a good
potentially
point, yeah.
use silent spell, or I think is still an option.
It's subtle spell. It gets rid of all of the verbal and somatic components of a spell. So sorcerers could probably still get around this magic item, assuming they have that meta magic ability. But wizards and warlocks, I think this would pretty easily prevent them from casting spells. Now, of course, you could tie their hands up or whatever. Maybe you need them to have their hands for whatever reason. I don't know. There's a lot of things that have to be taken into account when you imprison or otherwise try to detain a spellcaster.
Yeah.
But this is one thing that I think would pretty satisfactorily do that.
Yeah.
Especially, I don't know exactly how the mask is attached. But maybe, heck, put an arcane lock on that thing. So they can't, even if they have their hands, they can't take the mask off.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That'd be a cool recurring bad guy that you put this mask on and he can't take it off, but he still, he escapes and still shows up and messes with you. Oh,
yeah.
His abilities are limited, but he finds ways around it, or he is a sorcerer, so he has to use those power points or whatever every time he casts a spell.
Sure.
But, it'd just be a cool, he hates you because you put this thing on him, but that's not going to stop him from there's plenty of spells that don't need verbal components.
Sure. There was an episode of the Mighty Max cartoon. Did you ever watch that cartoon?
Absolutely, 100%. Go watch it now, which you can't really do.
Yeah, because it's not available anywhere.
They did not print. They just didn't print it or whatever. Publish it.
They never came out on DVD. I remember
they had it on VHS, but only select episodes.
Oh.
They didn't. The full series was never put on like anything that you can purchase, like home video or anything.
Yeah,
it's sad.
There was I remember Jay had DVDs of it, but he got them on eBay, and because you couldn't legally sell DVDs of it, if I recall, it was like the listing was like, hey, buy this envelope and I will include a burnt DVD of the Mighty Max cartoon or something like that.
I mean, I'm not, I don't ever want to advocate pirating stuff like that. I mean, like, if you do it, I'm not going to like hate you, but like, if there's something you're going to pirate, I feel like it should be something that they just never made available. Like,
sure.
Like, why deny people the greatness that is Mighty Max?
Yeah, I know.
It is one of my favorite shows.
Yeah. Oh, but I was mentioning Mighty Max. This is not just one of our patented off-topic discussions, but there's an episode of that show where the bad guy of the episode is some guy that he just has this like mask on his face that he can't get off. And he is like super powerful, but like supposedly if he were to get the mask off, he would be unstoppable or something. And the big, I guess, spoiler for this episode, the big climax is he like gets the key. They have the key. They're running away from him. Max tosses it onto like the edge of some they're like up in the Arctic or something. He like tosses it onto like a cliff, and then the guy grabs it, unlocks his thing. But then like as he takes his mask off, he like causes an avalanche and then gets buried in the snow or something.
Oh yeah, yeah. I'm remembering this better now.
So I don't know, the idea of a villain that their goal is to get this mask off of their face.
Yeah.
Because if they were able to do so, if they were able to cast their spells, I guess it's only up to 4th level spells, but still, you could take this idea and you could do something
3rd and 4th level spells are pretty potent,
Yeah, nothing, no complaint from me. So yeah, pretty neat item. What you're able to use for it kind of depends on, what kind of campaign you're running and so on and so on. But, it's interesting. I haven't really seen anything like it before, so thumbs up for me.
Right? Yeah, could be like just the neat thing your players come across, or it could be something that is like widely used in a society that like shuns magic users or something like that.
Yeah.
So it could be it has a lot of potential.
Yeah. And you could, in theory, you could just like get a magic item, get like a mask that has a permanent silent spell cast on it or something like that. But that's different because with this they can still talk. They can still do things involving sound. They just can't cast spells.
Right.
Which I think is a notable difference that is worth mentioning.
Yeah.
So anyway, so once again that was the Puku mask submitted by Steve A through email. So thank you, Steve A. That'll do it for the Dragon's Horde. If somebody wanted to submit magic items for the Dragon's Horde, Jeff, how would they do so? Or not just magic items. If they had questions they want us to discuss, or stories for the funeral pyre, how would they do that?
They could send us an email at InterPartyConflict@gmail.com.
Yes. And speaking of all of that, I don't know why I said that. It has nothing to do with what I'm about to say. We have a giveaway today.
Speaking of segues.
Right, exactly. Ooh, speaking. Oh, never mind. That's the magic item. Doesn't stop speaking. It stops magic item. It stops casting spells. Anyway, we have a winner today for our giveaway of the Chapel on the Cliffs adventure from Goblinstone. So, Jeff, today, who is our winner?
Today's winner is Tim D.
Whoa, winner. Gobble, gobble, gobble. Woo. And Tim D, it's funny because Tim D actually, he just entered the drawing like 8 hours ago or something like that.
See, people, it's that easy.
It is that easy. We're not, it's not like he was the only person on the list.
Yeah.
Although there are very few people on the list.
Yeah.
We got a few more since the last episode.
Yeah. So if you guys want to enter a chance to win Chapel on the Cliffs,
there is a very good chance of you winning very soon.
Yeah. Just send us an email, interpartyconflict@gmail.com with Chapel on the Cliffs in the subject line.
There you go. I didn't even have to ask. It is that easy. And then before we get into the episode, I want to tell you guys about our Patreon. We have a Patreon at patreon.com/interpartyconflict. We've got some cool rewards on there. You can give us $1 a month, $5 a month, $10 a month. And I just put up, so as of this recording, just a few days ago, I put up the fantasy fiction for September. I hope nobody thinks that this is me cheating, because what I did was I was in the process of writing some fiction for this month, and then I was having some trouble with it. But I was listening to the episode that we recorded 2 weeks ago, I think.
Okay.
And you mentioned an Eberron character that you made.
Oh, yeah.
And you mentioned that there was a story that I wrote. And I remembered, yes, I did write that story. So I went and I searched through my computer, searched through an old hard drive that I had. I eventually found it. So I found this story that I wrote a long time ago. It was like 10, 12, 13 years ago or something.
Gabe dusted off the hard drive.
I did, yes. And so I looked it over, and it is very different from the fiction that I'm writing nowadays. My writing style has changed quite a bit in the past 13 years, as is expected, I suppose. And I thought, I'm going to put this up there instead.
Yeah. So I wouldn't call that cheating, because one, that gives people a perspective as to your writing style and how it's changed. That's kind of a neat thing. Plus,
and I did write it.
Right.
Let's be honest here.
Yeah.
Also, it is noticeably longer than the fictions I've been putting up.
Sure.
The ones I've been putting up have been like 3,000 words or so. This one's like 10,000 words.
Gotcha.
So it's it's maybe not a short story, but it's a medium story or something.
Yeah.
So,
it doesn't get any bonuses or penalties to its grapple checks.
There you go. I'm shaking my finger at you. So yeah, that is available to all of our patrons, whether they be $1 to whatever. If you are a $10 patron, in addition to joining in our Roll20 game, which I mentioned earlier, if you're a $10 patron, I will write about your character for the monthly fantasy fiction. Now, I do have something set. I already have something set for October. I had an idea for something that I wanted to put up there for a while now. So I will get that out. But then after October, if anybody has we actually do still have 2 patrons that have not given me character information about a character they want me to write. And, I've gotten in touch with them a couple times. So it may be a willing omission, but sure. If you are a patron and I have not written about your character, let me know. If you would like to become a $10 patron, I will write about your character. We've got some cool stuff. Also bonus episodes. Around the time this episode comes out, sometime soon, we should have a bonus episode for October coming out at some point. So that should be a lot of fun. So yes, so check that out. Patreon.com/InterPartyConflict. Also check out Crit Academy and D&D Character Lab. Crit Academy is a great podcast where the 3 hosts, Brandon is back now.
Oh.
As of a week or so ago.
The comeback kid.
Yes. So Justin, Ian, and Brandon, they make new and reusable content for DMs and players alike. And then on D&D Character Lab, Garen and Dan make characters every week and then debate whose character is better. So a lot of fun.
Garen and Dan, not Darren. Not
Darren and Gan, exactly. All right. Well, enough all that. You want to get into this episode?
Yes.
Okay.
All right. Our first question for today comes from David E. This was on Discord. And if you've not joined us on Discord, look for the link on Reddit or on our Facebook, I think. As a DM, have you ever walked away from the table as the party makes an attack plan? So like before initiative or before, a battle would happen, or like as the players are sneaking up on enemies or something like that. Would you as a DM walk away from the table, let them come up with their plan on their own so that you can kind of react to it with a fresh mind?
I don't think I ever have, but I think that's a great idea. I think that if the party is interested in making an attack plan, I do think that them doing it separate from the DM would be a great idea, just because whether the DM intends to or not, they may intentionally kind of try to do things to foil what the party's trying to do.
Yeah. I really did. I saw this on the Discord, come up on the Discord, and I was like, that's a great idea, because it makes it harder for the DM, whether voluntarily or not, to be, to act adversarially in the combat.
Sure.
So like if you hear the players planning, you can get an idea of how to counter that, as they're planning it out. So it's like, if as a player, I would be I don't like discussing plans too outwardly, because I know that the DM might just come up with something to counter it immediately anyway.
Sure.
So what's the point? I'm just like, all right, just go for it. Just let's just get into this. So I like this idea. However, DMs do need to prepare in some cases.
Definitely.
There's gonna be some parts where when the players are discussing what they're doing, and maybe they misunderstood a description or something like that.
Ooh, good point.
So like maybe you give them 20 minutes to plan a thing out, and then you come to the table and they mention an enemy that's not even there.
Yeah.
And you're like, no, that person's not even there. They're like, oh really? Oh crap. We had this whole plan to capture him and do this other thing. And it's like, no, I said these guys work for him. He's not actually there, So,
yeah.
So sometimes it's a good idea to be there, not to necessarily be a guiding hand, but
just to make sure that they're thinking in the right direction.
Right. So everybody stays on track. Sort of.
Yeah. I think that this is going to depend a lot on whether your philosophy is that the DMs, whether the game should be natural versus curated, because some people, I guess I'm kind of an advocate of both, but some people think that the game should just be natural. The DM's reactions should be just spur of the moment. Like if the player does do something that the DM wasn't planning for, that, oh shoot, I didn't plan for that. Okay, yeah, you succeed. A lot of people would prefer that. Other people would prefer that the DM is kind of working to make sure that everything creates the most enjoyable game possible. And in order to do so, you do need all of the information, because to some people, like I said, some people think that taking the DM by surprise and ruining the bad guy's plan with one, thing the DM didn't think of. Some people think that is a blast and no problem with, all the power to those people. Other people would think that would be less climactic. And so they would rather the DM find some way for that not to work so that the battle can be, more climactic.
Right.
Again, neither approach is wrong. It's just a matter of what the group wants and so on.
Yeah. I feel like the worst part, like when a DM prepares a lot and then the players basically break that,
Yeah.
Gabe tends to get upset. Not upset. That's unfair.
I mean, I get upset a lot, but go on with what you're saying.
Well, because a lot of times when like Gabe's running a game and like he puts some enemies in the game and then we defeat them really quickly.
Oh, I think I know where this is going. Go on.
I mean, like, so, and like he'd be like, well, that was expecting that to last a lot longer. All right, and so he'll think ahead and say like, well, okay, this next encounter I was statting out sort of in a similar difficulty. You know what? I'm going to go ahead and bump that up a little bit and see how it goes.
Jeff is referring to a very specific thing that happened in our Patreon game, a Roll20 game that just happened last week. So
I feel like this happens to everybody though.
It does. I'm sure it does, especially in 5th edition. But the game that I was running, there were going to be there was 2 main encounters. There were a couple other small ones that the party managed to skip. But the main encounter, there was like a main encounter with this bad guy and a bunch of zombies. And when they got there, the party, they got initiative, they got initiative first. The guy went last. And then so he and all of his zombies too, because the zombies didn't actually show up until the second round.
Yeah, we got like a surprise round. So we got a full round and then another full round before his turn anyway.
Right. So basically the encounter, I think one person got hit once, if I recall.
Yes.
Whereas I statted out this encounter on kobold.club and it said that it was going to be a deadly encounter because it was CR2 plus like a whole bunch of CR 1/4, I think.
Yeah. And
so I thought, okay, this it says it's a deadly encounter. 5th edition tends to be a little bit swingy, so I'll go ahead and try it. So, and then like I said, only one person got hurt a single time and they killed everything with relative ease.
Yeah.
So that encounter, which I thought was going to be like the big climactic encounter, went by very quickly and very relatively painlessly. So there was one more encounter at the end that was meant to be just kind of like a little smaller, more minor thing. I was trying to debate whether to have 1 CR2 or 2 CR2s. This is for a party of 5 second level characters. So according to kobold.club, one of them would be one CR2 would be an easy encounter. The 2 of them would be a deadly encounter. Which, I mean, that's a big jump right there.
Right.
But they had gotten through this other deadly encounter with multiple enemies, which of course is like, multiple enemies. Action economy is the big deciding factor here.
Right. Yeah.
So I thought there's only going to be 2 enemies. So this other encounter, I'll go ahead and toss 2 of them in there.
Yeah.
See what happens. First round, basically everybody was unconscious.
Yeah.
mainly because like these bad guys, they each had an area attack. One of them used it. Just about everybody failed their save, and it was enough damage to knock everybody unconscious.
Right, yeah.
And then one of our patrons, Jom, cast sleep
on the
on the bad guys.
Yeah,
Justin's character.
Yeah, it was all but two of us went unconscious, and then one of the remaining two cast the other one to sleep.
Yeah,
and
then he got knocked unconscious.
So, I mean, that's an example of like that's mostly the dice.
Yeah,
it's like we got really lucky on our initiative rolls the first time,
right.
And we had a cleric in the party versus zombies.
Sure, that's a good point.
And then the other way, it was like our initiative was I think our initiative was pretty bad.
Yeah, they went second.
Like,
I think.
Yeah,
I think Justin went first, and then they went second.
All right, so like. Our initiative was bad, and then our saves were bad on that first hit. Like
it was a DC 12. I thought, everybody's gonna make this save.
But. Yeah, but I mean, like it's 5th edition, like it. Yeah, it's like 12 always sounds easy.
Yeah.
Until you're rolling nothing but 5s and 6s. You know,
right.
You know. So that I don't think that was I don't think that was a misjudgment. Like you were trying to make it. More challenging and exciting. Mm-hmm. And then the dice sort of went, well, all right, let's make it a challenge.
Pretty much. Yeah. So basically I did everybody roll for, to the death saves and everything. So like, it's not like I hand waved them not to all be dead.
Right.
But I did choose for the enemies not to attack them anymore, which I mean, the enemies had their own motivations and everything. So I think that is in line with that. But
sure.
Rather than kill the party, I basically just had them like push the party out a door and then close the door. And then they were not able to get back in. So it was, I think that was kind of an anticlimactic thing. That is a little bit different than the question that's being asked.
Sure.
But, I did make a deliberate change due to what the party had done before. The other philosophy, which is, well, just go with one of them instead. Who cares what they did in the previous encounter? It might have gone differently. Mm-hmm. I actually don't think it would. I actually think that the encounter probably would have gone exactly the same,
right?
Whether there was only one of them or not. Yeah. But that is an example of the changes in philosophy that this question is asking about.
Yeah, the potential for it to have gone the same way was the same because it was only one guy that did the attack that put most of us down.
Yeah.
So that's. Nothing was going to change that other than the dice rolling differently.
It might have taken one more round to completely knock everybody out. That's the only difference.
Yeah. So, what was the question?
Have you ever walked away from the table as a party?
Oh, right.
So I don't really have too much more to add about this. I think that it is an interesting idea. Like I said, I've never done it, but if you ever find yourself in a situation where the party has a chance to plan something out, because usually it is more the party walks into the room and then the bad guys are the ones that have the plan. Then if you have the chance, go ahead and let them use it, I would say.
Right. Yeah, this really just goes to like, what do you want to do? You want to prepare, or do you want to have a thing prepared, or do you want to just wing it?
Sure.
Like it's up to you.
There was actually a time where I kind of did the opposite of this. The party had The party had done something that logically would have caused the enemies to start doing something very complicated. And I didn't know how to deal with that because I was a very new DM at the time. Mm-hmm. So I asked one of the players to take, because the players were all DMs. This was back when I played with Chris and Melissa and John and all them. And so I asked Chris actually to momentarily take over the mind of the, to put himself in the role of the villains.
Yeah.
And then have him plan out what the enemies are going to do.
That was Chris, you said?
Yes.
That is a very Chris thing. I love that. I love that about him because he could, and he will do it to the best of his ability.
He did. Yeah. And he was very much like, okay, well, I see that they've got this ability, so they would do this. And then I see they've got this, so they would do that. He was very, very good about it.
Yeah.
Very good about this is why they're doing this, so that I, as the fledgling DM, I could understand his thought process.
Right. Our next question comes from Lost Ranger 17 on Reddit, and they ask, what are your thoughts or methods for determining NPC reactions and decisions?
Yeah, so I think when they were asking this question, it was more in the context of my DM rolled some dice to determine what a monster would do, and they ended up doing something completely random that didn't make any sense, and then we killed them or something. I don't remember the exact quote, but basically Lost Ranger 17 was saying that like my DM has this method for determining what enemies are going to do, and it seems completely random. What do you guys do?
Yeah.
When I'm running a game, I do occasionally leave it up to dice, but only when like it's never just like, well, what direction is he going to move in combat? And I roll a D8, a 3. Okay, he moves to the right. No, like whenever I do leave it up to dice, it's basically because like I know they're either going to do this or they're going to do this.
Yeah.
Let me roll to flip a coin basically to see which of those two appropriate things they're going to do. Mm-hmm. Generally, I do try to take into account as much as I can. I try to take into account the creature's motivations, the creature's intelligence, the creature's goals. Mm-hmm. I guess. I try to never have my NPCs do something that is completely random. I might occasionally, depending on how the fight is going, again, I do sometimes kind of curate combats and such tactics wise. If the party is doing really bad, I might have enemies act a little bit less tactical than maybe they should be.
Yeah.
Just so that, because I don't enjoy killing the players. Mm. Unless I think that I could make something good come of them losing, I prefer to this is the guy that he chooses to flee instead of saying fight or something like that,
or play it off as like the enemies are, because the players are doing so poorly, whether by rolls or whatever, like the enemies like underestimates them and does something they wouldn't normally do. There's a movie, I don't know if you've heard of it. It's kind of a indie movie, I guess. It's called Star Wars. Yes. Why did I know it was going to be Star Wars?
I don't know. But in the first Star Wars, so small spoilers for Star Wars, there's a point near the end of the movie where Luke Skywalker is being chased by like 2 or 3 TIE fighters and Darth Vader. Mm-hmm. And he's like about to shoot the thing that's going to blow up the Death Star or whatever. Does he succeed? Ooh, watch the movie and find out. But he's being chased by Darth Vader. And like, I think by this point, a couple of the other TIE fighters get destroyed. So it's just one guy and Darth Vader. And you can see that while they're chasing Luke, and you think, oh, Darth Vader's totally just about to blow him out of the sky. The TIE fighter that's to the side of Darth Vader, just out of nowhere, like veers to the right and bumps into Darth Vader's ship, throwing him off course. And then he like spins off, and then Luke's able to do his thing and save the day. So,
well, that wasn't random, was it?
I thought it was.
I thought that was because Han Solo swoops in and shoots them. I thought it was Han Solo swoops in, shoots there's Darth Vader and his TIE Advanced fighter, and then the 2 regular TIE fighters. And then I'm pretty sure it's Han Solo swoops in, shoots one of them, they explode, and then in the sort of panic of, oh no, we're getting shot at, they have the collide. So it's like,
is that what it was? Okay.
I'm pretty sure it's like immediately after one of them gets shot out of the sky or something like that.
Well, in any case, it is an NPC doing something that they didn't have to do,
right?
And because of it, the bad guys fail. And so nobody really like pokes a big hole in Star Wars using that. I mean, I sort of just tried to, but like Star Wars is still a ridiculously popular movie, despite the fact that at one point or another, NPCs sometimes do things that are suboptimal.
Yeah.
If that happens, and if it makes a more interesting story, I don't think anybody is going to hate you for it. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? I mean, if you do it a lot, a player may start to catch on, and they may start to feel like there are less stakes, because whenever the party starts to fail, suddenly all the bad guys act real stupid.
Yeah.
So you don't necessarily want to lean on it too much, but hey, if you're in a climactic moment and the encounter would be made more interesting by the party winning rather than losing, a small suboptimal choice here and there can be good, can be a good thing, like I said, don't use it too much. But anyway, so when trying to do, sometimes I will just decide it on my own that the enemy will purposely do this thing that is suboptimal. I might roll for it, and if I roll high enough, they won't do it.
Yeah.
But if I roll low enough, then they will. That way, there is still some sort of, I guess it's up to the dice.
Yeah. I've talked about it before, where there's sometimes when, like, as a player, when I'm making a decision that my character would do, I sometimes will roll.
Yeah, absolutely.
I will use the stats on my sheet, make my own little DC in my head, like, well, He has this intelligence. He's this good at survival. Would he know to do this? Roll the dice. All right. He'd know how to do that.
The funny thing is that while we're recording here, Jeff just rolled a D4 and got a 2.
Yeah. So I mean, I think if I rolled a D20, it probably would have been the same result.
Sure. So yeah, that's definitely something that I do whenever I'm playing a character and I want, like, let's say I want to determine if my character likes something. Like they eat a food for the first time. I'll roll a D20 and see if my character likes it. If he does like it, okay, I will take that into account from now on, and he'll start asking for it.
Yeah, because it's not something you like planned ahead. Like, oh, he's gonna like spaghetti.
Yeah, sure.
Like he's never had it.
Whoa! He's gonna like spaghetti. There's no roll needed.
But I mean, like, it's well, this is a food my character has never eaten before. I know he's gonna like it ahead of time. You know, it's like no, it's that is kind of fun to just be like, all right, does he like it? And roll a 4 with a D4.
Well, I guess that's like a 20 on a D20.
It's a natural 4.
There you go. There have even been sometimes where like I've purposely done this and it's led to some weird things that I then had to work out in character. We played a little bit of the Tomb of Annihilation, and my character that I was playing was like all about adventuring. And we went into a town where like either Volo was there or someone was selling Volo's Guide to Monsters in the town. And I thought to myself, does my character, who is all about adventuring and learning about monsters and such, does my character like Volo or dislike Volo?
Oh, sure.
And, I feel like he should like Volo because they like similar things, but I left it up to the dice. And for some reason, he didn't like Volo.
I kind of like that because, like, it's like two chefs or two authors or something might not like each other's work. It's like, yeah, you're both authors, but... you have disagreements. So like maybe, or maybe it's just like one particular thing like this, like his description of the manticore is like, there's something about it. He's like, no, the manticore has the face of an old man, not an old woman. Or I don't know.
Sure. Yeah. And I never really decided what the reason was, but there was just something about him that he just did not like about this Volo guy.
Yeah. It's like, that Volo guy.
I guess.
He stole my ideas.
So I do sometimes leave decisions, whether it's PC decisions or NPC decisions. I do sometimes leave them up to dice, but when I do so, I only do that if I know, if I'm choosing from a discrete list, all of which could be applicable.
Right.
I would never have a character that was just completely random.
Yeah.
Like, oh, he meets somebody new. Does he shake his hand, attack him, or run away and climb up a building? Well, oh gosh, he climbed up a building again.
Yeah. Maybe there might be like a chart in Xanathars or something that you just like you can roll in. It'll tell you the entire life of an NPC.
There you go.
So from beginning to end, it's all just completely randomly generated.
Entirely randomly generated campaign.
Yep. All right, our next question comes from King J EXE on Discord. What would you do in a TPK-Minus-One situation where all but one party member dies and for whatever reason they cannot resurrect the rest of the party?
Yeah.
So it's like the fighter's the only one alive. They don't have any means of healing or anything.
Like they can get away with their life, but that's it.
Right.
This is going to depend largely on what kind of a campaign it is, like what the story is, what the players were doing, I guess. Basically, it's going to come down to either that fighter goes on and does other stuff, whether it's going on and just starting a new storyline where that player has the same character and then the rest of the party makes new characters, or we just start a new campaign, basically. If it's kind of going to depend on what that one player wants to do. Mm-hmm. If that player wants to keep playing that fighter, well, okay, you keep playing that fighter.
Yeah.
And then I would ask the player, do you want to try and continue on this storyline, or do you want to just, throw your hands up, give up on it, and then go do something, work elsewhere?
Yeah.
So I would actually mostly leave this in the hands of that remaining player, because if they want to make a new character, okay, yeah, shoot, everybody make new characters,
yeah, make new characters.
Then I would ask the group as a whole, do you guys want to try and do this campaign over, or do you want to do something new? I feel like most of the time, if I were the player, I would probably want to just do something new. I don't think I would want to try to do the same campaign over.
Sure.
So I mentioned a long time ago in our episode where I was talking about the worst DM that I ever played with. Uh-huh. he had a serious revolving door of players. Like, people would come to his group and then they would leave, and then new people would come and then they would leave. And there were only a couple of us that stayed for any significant amount of time. And it really felt forced because he ran a very lethal game where characters would die often, or at least at the very least would get knocked into negatives often. It felt very forced when he would keep soldiering on with the same storyline, even though basically nobody in the party was there when the storyline was first introduced.
Right.
He did not ask. I was one of the players that was there the longest. He did not ever ask me, do you want to keep going on with this, or do you want to do something else? Because I would have said I want to do something else.
Yeah.
Instead, it was, well, I guess we got some new adventurers. Oh, I guess we found ourselves back at that weird mansion that we walked away from 10 sessions ago or whatever.
Right, yeah, that nobody wanted to go into, but it keeps popping up somehow.
Exactly. So I would leave it in the player's hands as much as possible. I would give preference to the player who survived, because if the story is going to continue rather than start over or change, then their character is going to be the one would most likely be the one to make that decision.
So if that one person wanted to keep going with that character and wanted to keep going with that campaign, I think an interesting way to do that is to say, like, okay, flash forward like several months, and then like you introduce the new players, the new characters, and then like you have them like go into a tavern and they see a grizzled fighter like sitting in the corner, like just like with a 1,000-mile stare, and like, like he's like the remaining, the surviving member of the last group becomes like the quest giver.
Oh,
in a way, so it's like it's like he's the one who starts the quest. He's like I lost a lot of friends in that dungeon.
Yeah.
And I just need to get closure. And he hires the new party members to help him, like, basically avenge the death of, the rest of the players.
Good. I'm trying to think if I've ever been in this situation before. I know I know of one time when I was a player. We actually, the two of us were playing with the guys from Crit Academy. Justin was running the Claws of Madness adventure, which you can win for free if you listen to Crit Academy and you like add your name to their mailing list or whatever. They have 3 drawings every episode for a different adventure each time, one of which is Claws of Madness. Anyway, we were playing through Claws of Madness, and I haven't read the adventure, so I don't know what else happens in it, but we got to what I think was like the final encounter or whatever, and everybody else in the party either died or became some sort of like a horrifying monster except me.
Right.
And I just kind of, like, my character walked back, closed the door, and left.
Yeah. Just like, never mind.
Yeah. In that case, my character would quit adventuring, especially given what that character was a noble he was only adventuring because he felt like he had to. He was like, oh,
right.
He was like the apprentice to the king's court wizard, but also he was like the king's like third cousin or something. So he was hoping to either become the new court wizard or become the king. And he felt the best way to do so would be to become a powerful wizard and then try to take over or whatever. And so he was only adventuring because, like, well, the current court wizard told me I should. So I guess I'll try out this adventuring thing. I hate sleeping on the ground and associating with dirty turtle people. But
hey,
well, anyway, so it would very much
survived a shark attack.
That's a very good point. But anyway, it would be very much in keeping with that character to just walk away, quit adventuring, never look back on.
Like, and I'm done.
And scene. So yeah, I don't really have a ton more to add to this one. I think it is a great question to ask.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, I would leave it in the hands of the players, particularly the player that survived.
Exactly. Yeah, it is. Yeah, I think you should take their word first, and then kind of bring it up to the rest of the group. Yeah,
sure. All right. Well, I think that'll do it for our normal questions for this week. However, before we move on to the funeral pyre, we're going to try to briefly talk about our social media discussion questions. Mm-hmm. So last week's social media discussion question was, what is your process, if any, for coming up with character names?
And my process is I'm still trying to come up with one since the last time.
You let someone else give you a name.
Yeah, there we go.
We got a few, not a ton of responses. We got a few responses. On Facebook, Molly G says, I use different languages for different races. Mm-hmm. I've got a favorite Elvish site, Dwarvish site that also has some languages of different Mannish peoples, and I tend to use Maori for halflings and gnomes. I pick a name that fits what I've decided for their personality, or occasionally the personality is determined by the name.
Yeah.
That's a great idea right there. I forgot to mention, I have on a couple occasions, if I need a name for something, I think my answer last week was, I pick a word that has something to do with the character and then I change around a couple letters.
Uh-huh.
On some occasions, I have taken a word that has something to do with the character, put it into an Elvish translator, and then whatever comes up, that I either take that or I take a couple letters off of that. Just so that it has some sort of a tangential relation, but Elvish translators or Dwarven translators or whatever tend to just give you some weird appropriate sounding, sounding word.
I'll give you one that I used for coming up with the World of Warcraft character names.
Yeah, go for it.
Because I was just so bad at coming up with names, I just I came up with a method that is like, I'm not like, it's nothing special, but I just picked a letter T. All right, I like the letter T sounds good and it's in front of a name, sure. So what I do is I just hit the random generator, like you hit the random name thing
until the letter T is the first letter.
No, until I found one that I could easily just slip a T in the front and maybe like change a letter or two here or there to make it sound nice. But like I would just be like, it's Elwyn. Nope, it's Telwyn. There it is. Like that's his name. So like on my main server, all of my characters' names start with T.
That's pretty good. I thought you were going to mention your character. Was it Tick or Talk?
Talk. Steven was Tick and I was Talk. We were a gnome, wizard, and warlock.
Yes.
We role played as twin not twin brothers. Well, twin brothers, not identical twins though.
Sure. I in actually the campaign I was talking about, the worst DM I ever had. In the campaign that I played with him, I was playing an elven wizard that had a rat familiar because I love rats. Mm-hmm. And at the time I had a rat. Or no, I had previously had a rat. I think she had already passed away. But I had previously had a rat named Muffin. Mm-hmm. So I got the Elvish word for muffin, which was Terrell, which I gave that name to my character's rat familiar. Which a long time ago we talked about creating a pantheon. And the god of magic in my homebrew campaign is named after the elven wizard that I had in that campaign, and there is a demigod named Terrell the Curious, which is his rat familiar, which also became divine when he became god. Anyway, so that was Molly G. Sean M. said, "How do I think the character feels to play, and then what sounds appropriate to that?"
Sure.
It's pretty good. Just think about like what sort of a character you're going to be playing.
Yeah.
John G says, at first I used Simpsons characters like my chaotic evil half-orc sorcerer Lionel Hutz. Mm-hmm. Now I'll use a name generator and pick and choose first and last name.
Sure.
So there you go.
Name generators are pretty good. Like you got to find the one that speaks to you.
Sure. On Reddit, Lost Ranger 17 says, a lot of times I'll use a combination of names from books I've enjoyed for my own characters. For NPCs, I usually use a generator unless I've got a name in mind that fits their personality. Prosno says, I try to blend names from name generators or build it from the ground up using sounds, maybe trying 3-letter prefix and suffix combinations. For example, Tuck Era, and then playing with it, TUK-ERA, and then playing with it. 90% of my character names have a total letter count that's divisible by 3. So yeah, that's something that's interesting, taking like 3-letter syllables, I guess, and then moving around.
Giving yourself restrictions to like kind of force a name, I guess. Like, yeah, when you're given less options, like I feel like it's easier to come up with something because you only have so many options, so many combinations. Sure.
I'm gonna say something that I think is might blow everybody's mind. The episodes of our podcast.
Yeah.
All of the names.
Oh no, I don't.
What?
Go ahead.
I'm not gonna say what it is, but
no.
There is a pattern or a theme to the names that I have chosen for every single episode of this podcast.
Okay, because you have mentioned that to me.
And
I still don't know what it is.
It does make naming the episodes difficult, but I feel so much better about the names having a restriction to what I'm going to call them rather than if it was just call them whatever. Because our bonus episodes, I'm always like, well, shoot, what am I going to call it? Oh. And I never feel good about the name when I don't have any sort of restriction.
Sure.
Yeah, so I believe I've hinted at this to you, Jeff, but I have never mentioned it on the podcast.
Oh, man, if anybody can figure it out.
Congratulations. Yeah. I'm not going to assign a prize to it or anything. But
if anybody can figure it out and tell it to me, I'll taunt Gabe with like grapple check questions or something.
All right. So that was our listeners on Reddit. On Twitter, Justin from Crit Academy says books, games, TV, movies, and of course, and then he linked to there's a Donjon.
Donjon
is a website. So like there's a name generator on there. A lot of the responses that we got are basically saying they use name generators, which is totally understandable.
That's a totally viable, like as someone who just can't come up with names ever.
Yeah.
Like I should use a generator.
Sure.
I usually don't because I'm like, no, I want to come up with a cool one.
My character Saythorn that we joke about with the whole chronic S block situation.
Sarith and Saythorn. Which one's the cleric?
The cleric is Saythorn, and his name actually came from when I was playing EverQuest long ago. Mm-hmm. That was a random name that they gave me. So
I think part of it also was that Saythorn was the cleric, and then Sarith had the spiked chain.
Yep.
And so, like, say Thorn, spiked chain.
Ooh, that's good.
So, like, I thought, I think that's part of the reason why I get it confused is when I hear say Thorn, I think of the chain.
Yeah,
the chain.
Interesting. I didn't know I was going to make a character with chains though when I made Saythorn. If I had planned it out, maybe I would have. I don't know.
Had it the other way.
Anyway, so on Discord, just got a few responses on here. Blubsternchin says, it depends a little if it's a really important NPC or I just have time and fun while doing it. I get neck deep into names and their meaning and choose what I think fits the character and their backstory. If it's for my current D&D homebrew world, I've already generated some naming conventions and try to adhere to them. Otherwise, if I'm put on the spot, I just go with whatever comes to mind first, which usually results in older German names that lack a little in fantasy but are easier to remember. So I guess both have their ups and downs.
Sure. Yeah. A name that's easy to remember. That can be important.
Oh, one more thing that I've used to come up with character names: street names.
Yeah, I mean, that's a common one of those. Like, what's your porn star name?
Yes.
That like you see them on Facebook all the time, where it's like you take the first half of the street you were born on, and the second half of the city that you live in currently, and that's your
soap opera name or whatever.
That's your Harry Potter wizard name or something. I don't know.
But there was one time when Jay was going to be doing his Eberron campaign. I was going to be making a human artificer. I was driving from, I was going to college at the time. I was driving from college to work. And I was passing by streets and I thought, oh, was that a good name? I don't know. So I passed Perth Street and Broadmoor Street, which are two streets there just off the same road that I would take to get to work.
Yeah.
And
I do remember you mentioning this about Perth.
Yeah. And so I named him Perth Broadmoor because, and I picked Perth. I thought Perth would be a good first name. And then I would pass by a street and I would say Perth Linden. No, that doesn't sound right. Perth whatever. And that doesn't sound right. Then Perth Broadmoor sounded really good. So,
yeah.
That's what I went with. King J EXE says, what I do if it's a character I'm going to play, I look for something with meaning. Oftentimes I take a quick Google translate this word into another language and make it sound more like a name. That does the trick. Other times I can't come up with something. Someone calls my character Bob and I roll with it and throw an apostrophe in there to elf it up. We're creating Bahab, BA''HAB.
So like the more apostrophes in an elf's name,
the higher rank, they're like higher social standing they are.
Yes. So it's Bahab.
Yep. That's sketchy said, random race generator, so like random elven name generator or whatever, is always a go-to for me for something quick, or I'll pull a word from their likeness and look through different languages to find a translated word I like. For example, one of my mains, Lass, which was a character on Adventures in Aurelia, comes from the Irish word for flame, laser. I probably butchered that because she has bright red hair like fire. And King J EXE, once again, he said, also Xanathar's massive list of names of races comes in handy.
Sure.
So Xanathar's guide has tons of resources for that sort of stuff.
Yep. A lot of tables in the back there.
Yeah.
There's also the like putting something in the Google Translate. You put something in the Google Translate, go from English to like Spanish, then from Spanish into like French, then French into Dutch, then Dutch into German, then German
my
into,
goodness.
you know, and you just keep going, and then finally you go back into English or something, and it comes out something completely different.
There is a website, I'm trying to remember what it's called, but it's this like ridiculous translator website where, like what you were saying, it translates it through like 30 different languages using different online translators and then back into English. So you can take like the name of your favorite TV show or whatever, put it in there, or just like a phrase from something, and then it gives you something ridiculous in response.
And I feel like somebody did, I remember seeing a video of somebody performing Let It Go.
Okay.
From Frozen, but put through one of those sort of translator things.
I think the one I was thinking was called Bad Translator. I don't remember what the website was, but it was called Bad Translator. So that is definitely something you could do to come up with a name for your characters. So, so that was the previous week's social media question. This coming week's social media question is, and this was actually, it was posted by someone on Twitter. It wasn't submitted to us, but it was something somebody asked. So I think it would be a good social media question rather than a normal question. You are creating a new campaign, so a new campaign world, and want to keep the campaign narrowed down to only 5 PC races. Which ones do you pick to offer to your players? And I would say, and why?
Right.
You know, this might be kind of long, but you know, we'll read them all over when we get responses, and we'll read a couple that we appreciate.
What races would I choose?
Well, I know 2 of them off the top of my head. 3 of them off. If Zaratan is a player race, I'll pick that one too.
No, they're just all Warforged.
All Warforged, yes.
Warforged, and Turtle.
There you go. Do you want me to? While you think, do you want me to say what mine were?
Yeah, sure.
I don't remember exactly what 5 I picked. I'll probably have to ramshackle that together. But the idea that I thought was, I think it would be better to limit PC races, not like the other races will exist in the world. Yeah. But I would think PCs should only be races that have lifespans similar to that of humans.
Okay.
So we're talking humans, half-orcs.
Right.
I think halflings. No, I think halflings live longer. Let's say shifters from Eberron.
I think halflings
do. I think halflings might have
slightly
longer. I don't know. So humans definitely, half-orcs definitely, shifters definitely. And then I would look at a couple other races and see what other ones also, because I think that it is very difficult for a human like us. Well, I hope everybody listening is a human. For humans like us to wrap our heads around how alien a creature's thinking would be if they know that 70 years is not a long time. If they know that the lifespan of a human is just kind of like an elf who might live several hundred years. Yeah. I just feel like they would have such different mindsets than a human.
Right. In the Mass Effect games, there was the God, I can't remember that. There was the Solarians who were like, they were kind of like amphibious, sort of, and they had a very short lifespan. And like they were the ones they talked very fast, they were very technical, and it was sort of like the idea was like, because they had short lifespans, they didn't have a lot of time, so they wanted to get stuff done.
Oh yeah.
So they talk really quick, and they're very smart, and they're very just to the point, and they're, you know, they don't beat around the bush. And then there's the Asari who live for like thousands of years. Yeah. And like their approach is much more like they take their time, and they're a bit more tactical, and like they're a very powerful race, but because they have such long lifespans, like they're not quick to act. They're they just like, oh, things will work out because they always have, because we've been around for hundreds of years. It's going to be fine. Don't worry about it.
I was looking at tieflings. Tieflings live a little bit longer than humans, but
yeah, I feel like that's a lot of the case in 5th edition. They don't give specific years anymore. You don't like roll to see what age you are.
Yeah. And I mean, that is probably for the best.
Yeah. And so like a lot of times it is like humans, but a little bit longer, or maybe a little bit shorter, or just sort of like it'll just be like vaguely human like lifespan or something.
Yeah. So here's what I would do. I would give humans, half orcs, tieflings, shifters, and half-elves. Half-elves do live longer than humans, but I think that would be like, that's like the one race that they are close enough to humans,
right?
That, I would let that slide.
Sure.
So those are the 5 that I would pick, because I do like shifters and I do like tieflings.
Yeah.
So those are the 5 races I would pick, and that's why. Because I think the lifespan is a big deciding factor of whether someone should, if you really want to get into the role play, I think that you should try to limit that.
Yeah, it's sort of a tough call. It would have to really depend on like what campaign and stuff I was running, you know, like what kind of thing I was doing. But I mean, like, I guess if I have to pick my favorite races,
sure.
Like I like turtles.
Yeah.
I've been enjoying lizard folk. Halflings I love in 5th edition. Warforged, obviously. And then Kenku.
Okay, so no humans? No players can play humans?
Yeah, you know what?
Okay.
Yeah. Like, it just kind of like force people out of that comfort of like, I'm just going to play a human. Like, whether it's because they don't know how to role play something else, or they just want that extra feat.
Sure.
It's like, no. Come up, just play a bird. Play a Kenku who they don't speak. Kenkus don't speak.
That's true.
They only mimic things, and they can mimic speech, but it's not like they can mimic someone's voice and just speak out of that voice.
They can only say things they have heard said.
So like the idea is that like your like one sentence is one voice, the next sentence is another voice, or like a fragment, like one word of a sentence is one voice, and then the rest of the sentence is another voice. Think of who is
Bumblebee from Transformers.
Sure, that's that's a good example. Like a more obscure example would be I forget the guy's name. I think it's just called The Master or something. He's Fallout 1.
Oh, okay. I haven't played much of Fallout 1, but I know who you're talking about.
There's a character at the end of Fallout 1 who's like this like mutant thing who's like connected to a computer in one of the vaults or something like that, and like he speaks through the computer, and like different fragments of his voice are different voices.
Sure.
And sometimes it'll like glitch and like repeat a thing over and over in different voices, and it's really creepy.
Yeah.
And it was great, but it was great. It was really cool. But like, play a Kenku and like force the player to be like, no, you got to do a bit different voice every once in a while.
Yeah. It would be kind of like at the very end of our episode that Garen and Dan from D&D Character Lab were on.
Oh.
At the very end of the episode, I put like, Gabe, you are amazing.
Oh yeah. Cut it out. Yeah.
Okay. So that was an interesting set of races.
Sure. Those more just like things, like races I like, and then one I'd find, it would be interesting to see a player play. Like lizard folk falls under that too, because like in their description, like they are lizard. They have, how it's like your brain is you have your lizard brain, and then there's the mammal brain, and then the primate brain on top of that. Like, just like it's the evolution of the brain sort of a thing. Yeah. It's not exactly that. Don't get crazy. But it like, but being like the idea is that like they're a developed brain, but if it was just a lizard brain, so they're much more like they're,
much more like instinctual and such.
Yeah. They don't have emotions. They just have instincts.
Sure. So that was, those were our social media discussion questions. So be sure to check those out on Facebook, Twitter, Reddit, and our Discord. So now, before we close out the episode, I think we should, let's take a deep breath. Let's think about those who have come before us, who have given their lives so we may have a better world to live in, as we toss another log onto the funeral pyre. And this one was submitted by Adam B. on our Discord. So if we haven't pimped our Discord enough this episode, Adam B. says, we recently had a player not so much die, but ascend.
Ooh.
A major city within the campaign is under siege, and the outer wall is slowly overrun by orcs. This wasn't a problem until the lifeless corpses of the orcs and defenders alike reanimated and proceeded to attack.
Oh.
Unfortunately for the party druid, though, who was surrounded and knocked unconscious. To help save him, the party paladin, Gilligan of Heartfire, misty-stepped over his body and proceeded to plead out to his god for help. In our world, the gods are active and will react on a percentage roll of less than 10 on a D100. He rolled an 8. The god released a destroy undead from the paladin, causing a blinding light, and as the light disappeared, the paladin was gone.
Ooh.
Unknown to the party, he had been plane shifted and taken to Mount Celestia and offered the opportunity to join the royal guard of his god and ascend. A one-time offer which the paladin accepted.
That's pretty cool.
That is pretty cool.
Like, I like that it was just sort of like, he could have just gone back, maybe, potentially.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's exactly the case, but like it's a thing that the DM is like, all right, you have this one-time choice to ascend to godhood or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Does your character take it? And I'm like, of course he would, or something.
Right,
you know?
right.
You know, so like yeah, I'll roll a new character so that this character can just become a god. That's awesome.
Sure.
It's a good way to end a character, you know,
Yeah.
or you know, to instead of having somebody die, because like in the end, a player was lost from the party.
Sure.
So it was going to be either the druid being mauled, being devoured by zombies while unconscious, or a paladin sacrificing themselves.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah, definitely seems fitting of the character. So let's raise a glass in memory of the paladin Gilligan of Heartfire, who went on a 3 millennia tour.
Clink.
Or maybe it was longer. I don't know. However long the god wanted him to work for him. Probably for forever. It was a joke, people. So that'll do it for today. To submit questions for us to discuss, items for the Dragon's Hoard, or stories for the funeral pyre, please email us at interpartyconflict@gmail.com. For show notes, links to media mentioned on the show, and running lists of questions and magic items, go to interpartyconflict.com. Join the discussion on social media. Find us on Facebook, facebook.com/interpartyconflict, our subreddit at reddit.com/r/interpartyconflict, on Twitter at InPartyConflict, or on our Discord for our weekly social media questions. Your answers might end up on the show. Find us on iTunes, Google Play Music, Stitcher, YouTube, anywhere you download podcasts. Please rate, review, subscribe, or just tell a friend. If you'd like to support the show, check out the rewards at patreon.com/interpartyconflict. There's a few different tiers, so anything you can spare, even $1 a month, would go towards making the show better, and you'll get bonus content for it. Jeff, tell us about FriendQuest.
FriendQuest is our YouTube channel where we play video games. Just as of this recording, put up an episode of me doing very poorly at Hollow Knight.
Oh, yeah.
It was after a break, so like I was really rusty. So
Sure.
It was a long one because I just kept dying. It was terrible. But go and watch it, please.
Okay, all right. And I recently put up the second episode of the Arcade Memories podcast.
Oh, right.
So if you have any stories you'd like to submit to that, stories of going to the arcade, the sights, the sounds, the high scores, all that kind of stuff, send that to me at arcadememoriespodcast@gmail.com. Also, head over to bit.ly/interpartyconflict to take a short survey about our show. What you like, what you don't like, etc. And just for taking it, you'll get 2 free printable board games courtesy of Mary and Tom over at hollandspiel.com. And our music is made by Boxcat Games from Nameless the Hackers RPG. So, Jeff, until next...